Board meeting will come to order at 5:32 p.m. In attendance are Larry Osborne, Cynthia Andrews, David Goldberg, Nick Dirkman, Carrie Linder, and Scott Edwards, and library staff Greg Williams and Denise Butcher. So our first item of business is approving the minutes from the last meeting, which you should have received last week. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve the minutes for
Second.
Or October, I guess, right?
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. All right, then we'll move on to the next item, which is the director's report.
Thank you very much, Chair Edwards. Before I start, just on a personal note, I know I sent out an email, but I would like to say this for the record. I want to thank everybody for their patience and support over the last month, as I have been, as you know, we're dealing with a family issue, and so I'm very appreciative of everybody's care and concern and support. It has meant the world to myself and my family. So thank you very much for your patience, and it's greatly appreciated. Okay, so we'll hop into the director's report. So the first thing I wanted to point out, I've added a section on there which just takes a look at the statistics, and if there's anything, you know, from month to month that's a little out of the ordinary, I'm just trying to call it out just so you have a little more context as to why there's some differences month to month in the stats. This month there were a couple of jumps in some programming and circulation stats, which I think are due to our Halloween slate of programming and the beginning of our grab and go book bundles. I pointed out that in the number of registered borrowers, you'll see there's a fairly sizable decline from month to month, and that's because that the county every year does a purge of inactive accounts, and those hit in October, and that's when you'll see them reflected in the stats. So they basically find accounts that have not had any significant activity for, I believe it's 3 years, and don't have a balance due, and they just purge those accounts out of there. So they do that once a year. And then I did make a note that normally I would have tried to get November's data in there. I don't know if Mo has ever explained this, but just in case, I'll make sure that everybody knows. The statistics that we get from the county, you know, they can't send out the current month or the last month's statistics until the first couple of days of the new month. And when we have a board meeting like we did this month, where it's on the second Wednesday of the month, which falls very early in the month, my board package is due before I actually get those latest stats from the county. So that's why they weren't included in this month's report, but we'll get 2 months worth of stats next time around. So I just wanted to make sure people understood the timing issues there. For our staff update, we are in the process of recruiting some additional on-call library assistants. Those are going to be greatly welcome to help us, especially in our COVID times when we're kind of splitting our staff into A and B shifts. We completed the interviews yesterday, and I believe we are in the process. Denise can correct me if I'm wrong, but we've already made offers to a couple of folks, and we're going to try to get 5.
Yeah, to 5, and they all accepted. So
all right, great, and they were great. They were some just really great people with diverse backgrounds and just great attitudes, really positive about coming to the Oregon City Library. So that's going to help us increase our pool of on-calls to make it easier to cover shifts. And when we're talking about the on-call pool, you know, that's not anything that has in and of itself does not have a significant budgetary impact. It's just we have more bodies available to help fill the budgeted hours that we have at the library. So it just gives us a little more operational flexibility. Library grounds and facilities. I did want to point out I put in a picture of the Carl Platt Memorial sign where the location is going to be. We had talked a couple months ago with you about putting that sign up, and I know originally the plan had been it was going to be more towards the John Adams side of the park next to a tree. that was there, but after consulting with the Parks Department, they pointed out that that tree is, I believe it's in the early stages of Dutch elm disease, and they are very concerned that that tree is not going to make it, over the next year or two. And if that tree has to go, they're going to have to take it down, tear up that spot. And so they strongly recommended that we find another location for the sign that wouldn't, we could put it somewhere where it wouldn't be damaged if that tree had to come out. So we worked with the Parks Department to evaluate some other spots. And the one we settled on was, as you can see in the picture, it's on the concrete right outside of the reading circle. And it's actually a really nice, it's a nice location. You get people coming down from the top of the hill or outside the library. They can read the sign. They'll be able to see a good section of the park. It's not near a tree that may fall down, and maintenance-wise, it makes it a lot easier for parks to have it on concrete rather than on the grass. So we went ahead and I authorized them to put the sign there, but I just wanted to make sure everybody knew about that. And we will be going forward with getting the sign installed and having a little dedication ceremony, hopefully in the next month or so. I wanted to also point out, you'll see in the director's notes, there are some pictures of the steps, the concrete steps. We are evaluating options. We not so bad in the winter, but during the summer months, we get a lot of skateboarders. And even though there's signage posted about, no skating in the park, no skating in the fountain, that has limited effect in discouraging skateboarders. So we are working with our facility department to evaluate putting another handrail or another steel handrail or two on that section of the steps. Where that picture is taken, there's a very long concrete step, and the skateboarders love to, I believe the term is grind. They love to grind along that step, and as you can see, it's caused a significant amount of damage to that bottom step. So
a new thing, Greg, today, they were on their skateboards on top of the book drop. So
Goodness.
That's great.
all right, that's boy, I don't know how we're gonna.
I don't know how to make that.
So, well, that'll be another challenge for us to look at. So we're looking at options for doing that. So probably in the next couple of months, you'll see another handrail there. So. And then finally, I should have some more information for you next month, but we are evaluating options to improve the people counters that we have in the library. That will provide real-time occupancy monitoring, both of the building as a whole and even individual areas of the library. The primary reason we're doing that is for COVID restrictions. We still anticipate that we're going to be in an environment where we have to be very mindful of capacity going forward. So we wanted to have a system in place that would help us do that. We also wanted to make sure that if we were going to expend this money, we do it in time to get some CARES reimbursement. So that is a purchase that should qualify for federal CARES reimbursement. And so it's a good opportunity for us to do something that can help with the COVID situation and also get a little funding to help support that. So I should have some more information. We're in the final process of selecting a vendor now, and I'll share some information with you next month on that. Speaking of COVID, library operations, I put a note in there. We did receive some new guidance from the states. I'm presuming everybody's probably seen that the state is no longer using a phased framework for COVID restrictions. They are now using a risk-based model, where every county has benchmarks, and based on those benchmarks, they will place individual counties into one of 4 risk categories, I think low, moderate, high, and elevated, or extreme, I believe. And right now, I believe the vast majority of counties in Oregon are in that extreme risk category. So over the next, we've already been thinking about it. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at that phased plan that I shared with you a couple months ago, and we're going to do some work to adapt that to that new guidance framework, and try to put together a revised version of kind of how we see things playing out as the COVID situation, knock on wood, gets better in coming months. So, but I just wanted to assure everybody that we were paying attention to all of that. We also have some new OSHA guidelines that came out. We've been working with the city to make sure that we are implementing those, documenting our practices, and that we're doing everything as safely as we can. So I'll share some information with the board next month about that, but I just wanted you to know that was going on. I won't go into everything here, but we had some great new and expanded services that we're really proud of. So our book bundles are going like gangbusters. People really, really like them. The most popular element is the popcorn that comes with the movies. People really, really like that. I didn't make it in here, but if you are on social media, you'll probably see it. We are, for this month, we're going to have some holiday themed book bundles. So we got some holiday themed bags, which are very fun. We have some new programming and online resources, our Lego videos, and our BookFlix database. We're really excited about the BookFlix database. It's an ebook resource for younger kids who have been kind of left out of some of the e-resources that we have available. BookFlix is great for early readers. The books have a narration option. It also comes with currently, I believe it's 75 Spanish language ebooks, which has been an area that we really haven't had a lot to offer our community. So we're really glad to have that. And we're excited to be offering BookFlix. Every library in the county signed on to that, which is great. Speaking of kids, we have a new trivia night that's just for kids. Trivia program. It's every second Wednesday. We have let the school district know about it so that they can, let kids know they have an option on their Wednesday curriculum. They want to have a little fun. And so hopefully that will grow and be as popular as our adult trivia. On the outreach, the main one I wanted to focus on just because it was so neat and I'm so proud of our staff for doing this. I gave you some information. So as you heard from Gina and Barrett a couple months ago when we did our summer reading program, we were constrained into how many books we could give away. We mailed out as many books as we could, but we ended the summer reading program with about 1,400 books still on hand. And we originally thought, well, we can put them in a storeroom and try to save them for next year. But after thinking about it a little bit, we decided, no, we want to do everything we can to get those books into kids' hands as quickly as possible. So Barrett really took the leadership on this. She reached out to the school district and said, hey, is there anything that we can do to help distribute these books to kids who need them? And the school district responded enthusiastically. And so over a couple of weeks ago, they picked them up. So we gave the school district 1,400 books to distribute. Those are going to be going out. They're going out on the school lunch routes. So the schools are providing lunches at kids' bus stops. And so those books are going to be included as on school buses as they go out so that kids can pick up books for their lunches. The school district also has what they call, I need to remind myself, it's their care and connection teams. So what the school district has done is they are monitoring students who don't seem to be logging on frequently to the district's online programs, or kids that they may have kind of lost touch with a little bit. And they're actually sending school district employees out to those houses just to make contact with them, to check in on those kids and make sure they're doing okay. And they can now also bring a book bag, a book bundle with them. So it's got a book, it's got a couple little school supplies. The books are geared towards the individual grade level that the kids are in. So it's just a way to help get those books into the hands of kids who really, really do need them during this time. So we're really excited about that. It was great to make all those book bundles, the book bags, and to have the school district was very enthusiastic about picking them up and helping us distribute them. So I just want to give all the credit in the world to our youth services team and especially to Barrett for making that partnership happen. And then finally, the only other thing I wanted to point out, you may have seen if you get the Clackamas County, if you get the paper Clackamas County newspaper, or you look at the Clackamas County online newsletter, you'll notice there's a marketing campaign that Link Libraries have engaged in. It's called We Are Your Link To, and it identifies some services that libraries are providing, especially during this pandemic. And there's a lovely graphic there, and I will proudly say that our resident graphic design genius, Gina Bacon, was very instrumental in helping put those graphics together. So I just wanted to give her a little kudos for contributing to the cooperative and helping make some really nice graphics and helping get our message out there about what libraries can do for folks. And then finally, I also included some of the great positive feedback we've been receiving over the past couple of months. My favorite one was the email from somebody in Arizona who had discovered our guided meditations with Sage videos, which was great. And as I noted in the report, it's a really great reminder that online content really does have this ability to really reach a lot of people, both within and outside of our service area. So even as we start returning to normal post-pandemic, I think our online activities are going to be a really effective component in helping us get services out to people who may not be as easily able to physically visit the library. Just having somebody from Arizona just email us and saying great job it was just a great reminder that wow. So with that, that's kind of my overview of the report. If there are any questions about any of that or anything about the statistics you'd like to know about or discuss, please feel free to let me know.
2 questions.
Sure.
I'll start with the online resources that you'd mentioned. I was just curious, are there what extra steps or anything are you taking to add to that? Is there even more other things like I'm wondering if they're doing like museum tours online now that we could add, since we have reduced price tickets and things like that. Is that something the library could offer, or some more educational materials and things, not just for kids, which is great that we're doing that, but also for adults and things like that are online specifically?
We definitely could. I know our adult services team and our social media person, they're constantly looking for resources that pop up that we can promote to people. We actually have, I know in our social media, we put together a social media calendar where we identify the things that we want to promote. In my mind, it's like programming a television network. Aaron will tell us, okay, I've got Tuesday night slot at 10 o'clock available to push something out there. And so our librarians are always collecting resources for things like that we can get out to people and encourage them to take advantage of it. I can get some examples of that for you and bring them back next time. But yes, our librarians are always watching out for opportunities like that to get information.
We currently offer a great selection. If people haven't been on there, you've got to get on there on the online services on the Link website. And for example, the Canopy that's available to library members is great. The language resources, research resources, and all of that. I was just wondering if maybe because of the situation we're in with the pandemic, maybe that there were some other things possibly to add. So it sounds like you guys are constantly looking at that.
Yep, we're adding, and there's also the one that's on the Link page. That's when we want to add something, that's a conversation with all of our other libraries. So they agree, but when it's our social media or our web page, we can more easily just get that up when we want to. So
and when you look at the online resources there, I mean, it's almost overwhelming. There's already quite a bit of options on there. So, and my second question was on mailing materials. I know we did that once during COVID, and then I'm assuming it's probably being done for those who aren't able to get to the library, and as you mentioned, for school children and stuff like that. Is that something that's going to be expanded in the future, or?
Yeah. So yes. We are still mailing materials. What we're doing, it's not an advertised service. So when somebody contacts us or we're talking to somebody and we realize that they're not able to come and do a hold pickup, or they've got some issue which is preventing them from getting to the library to get their materials, we are working with them and we'll mail stuff out. Going forward, it's part of our strategic plan to have a books by mail program. I have had conversations with the county on this. kind of the big question when we think about a books by mail program is the county going to be able to provide something that would be countywide? It's on their long-term strategic plan also to be able to do a countywide books by mail, and kind of figuring out, I would hate for us to go forward, right at the time when the county is also putting together a service that we can kind of piggyback on and take advantage of. But I also want to make sure that we're providing service to the residents who need it the most. So that's my long way of saying, yes, we're looking at it. I want to go forward as quickly as we possibly can, but if there is an opportunity that the county might be able to provide some resources and some support for us, I want to make sure we take advantage of that. So.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. A couple of things. One, it looks like circulation from year to date from last year to this year is down a little over 70%. And, that's a big number. It means just a lot of people are not getting materials. I don't know if it means fewer people or fewer materials per person or what, probably both. I'm curious as to what's happening with the other libraries and if people are thinking about, okay, how do we get out of this now? I mean, we'll have a vaccine, probably within the next year, that people are vaccinated enough to start thinking about some coming out of this. But there's going to be an impact. I mean, more than 70% circulation reduction means there's going to have to be a buildup afterward. Because that demand doesn't just come back. And so I think we need to start thinking a year from now as to, how we can sort of reintroduce the library to the community.
No, I think you're absolutely right. It is something we've talked about. It is something we've talked about with the other directors. It's that the longer this goes on, the less of a role the library is playing in people's lives. I think that's really part of the reason why we have tried to do as much as we possibly can with online and social media. I mean, we want to make sure that people don't forget that we're here and that we are providing services in a lot of different ways. It's not perfect because there are people who don't have easy online access. But yeah, that is definitely something we'll want to look at. I can find out from the other libraries what their circulation numbers are looking like. I can pull some reports. Everybody's pretty much in the same boat.
Yeah.
There's just without having the buildings open in the same way and on the same hours, it's just a physical impossibility to move that volume of materials.
Yeah. No. I know. I understand. It just. Yeah. I just wondered if you were an outlier or if this is what everybody is facing. That's just a big number.
Yep. Well, I will pull some data and we can look at that next month. But every library director at every library I've talked to, all of our circulation numbers are down. But I will say every comment that we get from, not every comment, the vast majority of comments that we get from people who are coming to get materials to the library, they are just so incredibly appreciative that we're still being, that we're doing what we can and we're offering materials. So that gives me hope that people haven't forgotten about us and that we're still going to continue to be a huge part of their lives when we're able to come back. But yeah, it's something we do have to be strategic about making sure that people don't forget.
Thanks.
I had a question. I was curious. I was surprised that the number of electronic materials being checked out was not a lot higher than what it shows. It looks like we're about maybe 15 to 20% higher than last year, but during that month. But I'm just amazed that people are not using that online service for checking out materials.
Yeah, what we've found, it's a combination of a couple things. First, there's screen fatigue these days. I mean, people are they're on their screens all the time. And I've even talked to a couple of patrons and said, are you aware that we have this resource available for you? And the answer is, I don't want any more time on the screen. There is also, there is a technological divide. There are people who are just not as comfortable using devices, using an e-reader, using a tablet, using a computer to download. their materials. I will say we've had some, we've introduced a lot more people to doing that over the past 10 months, which is great. I think we have a very good probability that those people will remain ebook users going forward. But yeah, those you are correct that the initial increase we saw right around March or April has sort of plateaued a little bit. So it probably also has to do with the budget that's available for materials on there. Unfortunately, there is the impression that since it's electronic, I should be able to go on there and just get everything I want right away. And I know you are all very familiar with this, but it's not like the cost basis for ebooks to libraries is much higher than it is for a retail customer. And all the libraries, we've had many discussions about allocating additional funds to put into electronic materials. And it's always that question of, where do you take the money from? And so.
Any other questions? I would like to mention though, I love the new book drop. That is,
Oh, good.
I have not had an issue putting books in there and having it full. So it's great.
That is great. Other than the skateboarders, which still is, I'm still trying to process that. The other great thing was, and Denise, correct me if I'm wrong, but was this like the first Thanksgiving in memory that we did not have to have staff come in over the Thanksgiving holiday just to open the book drop and empty it, which
Yeah.
So,
Yep, it held 4 days worth of stuff and still had room.
Yeah.
So
great. Yeah. I'm very pleased that we got that as well. I'm also very pleased that we were able to get reimbursed for that from the CARES Act. So that was good as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So does that wrap up your director's report?
Unless there are any other questions, yes, that wraps up my report.
All right, then if there were no other questions or comments, then we'd have public comments, and I don't believe we have any lined up for this evening. So we'll move on to the discussion items, starting with the 2020 Oregon Public Library Statistical Report.
Thank you very much. All right, I have given everybody a copy of the statistical report. Looking back at Mo's notes, I realize that I believe in years past you may have seen a draft of this before it got submitted to the state. So yeah, given the way this year has gone, I do apologize for not being able to get that to you before it was due. I beg your forbearance and forgiveness, and I will make sure that next year we are able to get that data to you prior to submission.
We forgive you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We do have an opportunity to update anything that got submitted incorrectly or that we have questions about. This is just the initial submission, where we can always talk to the state. So I've presented the whole report to you. There were a couple of things that I just wanted to highlight real quickly, just to try to, there were a couple I thought there might be some questions about why the discrepancy year over year. So let me just go over those fairly quickly. A couple of these have notes in the report itself, so hopefully they were self-explanatory. In question 2.04, all other paid staff, it looks like the number went up by 2 employees from last year to this year. That doesn't mean we added 2 more employees. It was just the way it was been reported in the past. The instructions call for you reporting all budgeted positions. And I think in the past, we were reporting filled positions at the time of the report as of June 30th. So we had 12.15 budgeted positions available to us in the past. We would just report how many of those were filled. So that's the explanation for the discrepancy on that question. On 2.07 total volunteer hours, it looks like there was a precipitous decline in the amount of volunteer hours we had between last year and this year. A little bit of that was due to the fact that we closed, we had to close the library in March, and we're not having volunteers come in these days until it's safe for them to do so. That doesn't explain the whole discrepancy. I believe the other discrepancy is that the previous year's numbers included volunteer hour totals from the Friends of the Library, which They are a separate organization. They are, you know, those stats should not be reported along with the library volunteer hours. So this year I only reported the number of volunteer hours that were attributable to the volunteers that we had coming in and working in the library. Let's see, 3.09, you'll notice there's some federal government revenue. That was CARES Act reimbursement, so about 70 grand as of the end of the fiscal year. CARES runs through the end of this calendar year, and who knows, it may get reauthorized. There may get more money in there depending on what Congress does. So there should be, next year you'll also see some more federal revenue in CARES reimbursement, but that's what that 70 grand is for. In question 8, sorry, I'm trying to scroll. 8.17, library visits. I know this is one of the first things we talked about when I first came on board, and then the world changed and we had other things to focus on. The library visits, that was the people counter issue. So that was the people counters. One of the people counters that we had in the building was effectively double counting people when they came in. And so I worked with the state library to figure out the best way to kind of adjust our numbers to get more to a more realistic number. And so that's why you're seeing that discrepancy between last year and this year. Some of it is also due to the fact that the building was closed for 15 weeks during the year. But the biggest part of that decline is because of the correcting the way those people counters were counted. And then I think the one positive thing that really struck me when I was looking at this was, yeah, there were some declines in circulation and declines in a lot of spots that we would anticipate seeing declines. If you look at the programming numbers, however, and the programming attendance, there was a much less of a decline there. And I think that really speaks to the efforts between the end of March and the end of the fiscal year in June from our staff to really try to get online programming out there and do videos and provide things for people, other ways for people to engage with the library. And it's gratifying to see that, you know, that category, you know, did not have as much of a hit as other categories. So those are the things that struck me in the statistical report. If there's any other questions or anything else you wanted to discuss, happy to try to answer.
There are no questions or comments, then we'll move on to the interview questions.
Okay. Interview questions. So once again, I thank everybody for their patience. Normally we would have done this last month, but once we get the meeting, we'll do it this month. So we do have one position that will be vacant, one library board position that will be vacant at the end of the year.
So Ken is not reapplying?
Correct. Ken let me know that he is not reapplying. He was very nice. He said his priorities have changed. He was very complimentary about the library staff and the direction we were going. So he wasn't storming off in a huff. So that was good. So the first thing.
Have any applicants?
At this point, we only have one applicant, and that's one thing I did want to talk to the board about to kind of get your feeling on how we should approach that. So first, we'll start with the questions, if that's okay. So I took the questions from last year, and in red, I made just a couple of very minor, just phrasing tweaks. The biggest thought that I had, suggestion, and these are your questions, so I want to be very respectful of the fact they're your questions. One of the questions had to do with the Library of Things. It was suggesting an item from the Library of Things. And after talking to Denise, I think that was probably a question that was more geared towards the fact that last time around, that collection was just spinning up. Yeah. And so we can definitely leave it in there, or if you were interested in getting potential members' feedback on items they might like to see in the collection, we could revise the question, or we could take it out. So that was the only thing that really struck me about the questions. But I'd love to have a discussion about what we want the questions to be, if there are thoughts or comments.
I'm fully supportive of the revisions made. I think they were all perfect. I think the questions look great now.
Yeah, I think taking the library of things question out makes total sense. So,
Are there any ideas on additional questions? Me neither. So, all right.
Yeah, no, I thought they were a good set of questions. So they were great questions. I especially liked I really liked the question about the service area, about providing, of asking people about ways, how their thoughts on providing services to, we have such a far-flung service area with one physical location. I thought that's a great question. So I think that's a really good one to keep. So,
Probably get around to addressing that.
yes, that's on our list. So
Eventually, yeah.
yep. So does it sound like if we take out current question 7, the library of things question, and leave the rest with those minor tweaks as suggested? Does that?
Yes.
Yes.
That sounds good.
how would we conduct interviews?
So that's the next thing. So normally, so what we would normally do is we would do it during a scheduled board meeting. So I would contact the applicants and we would let them know that this is the time we have set aside for interviews. They would be recorded and made available. With the change in, I have to follow up with our city recorder to find out what the commission's pleasure is on this. One of the commissioners might want to be involved, or at least watching the interviews. So there was a thought, there was a suggestion that Commission President Rachel Lyle Smith might want to be involved to at least just watch the interviews as they're going on. So I'm going to reach out to her and find out if that is something she wants to do. She has expressed an interest in doing that with some other boards and commissions, just watching the interviews, not necessarily participating in it, but just watching. So we would get the applicants, we would schedule them to come talk. We'd ask them a question, and then we would have a discussion afterwards about which member we felt was the best appointment. Forward that appointment recommendation onto the city commission, and presumably the city commission would make those appointments as recommended by the board. But I believe the mayor has ultimate authority to appoint who the mayor sees fit. So,
And would our discussion about the different candidates be recorded and be part of the public record? Because I know that's been an issue in the years past.
I believe that is current practice, and there is in the information I got from the city recorder, yeah, there's no change to that. So yes.
I think what we did last year, you weren't comfortable having video, but we did still do audio.
That's right.
So the position, Ken's position, is that an in-city position?
Yes.
That is, yes.
Okay.
And so, like I said, the city did their initial recruitment. We have one applicant at this point. I talked to Katie, our city recorder, and we have some options. We could always go forward with interviewing a single applicant, see what you thought. She says that typically, she has the opportunity to look at applicants for other boards that have come in and reach out to them and say, we might not be able to get you on this board, or there's other people interested. Would you be interested in applying for the library board as well? So we can try to get some applicants that way. I've got some people I can reach out to that might be good. If you've got people to reach out to, I mean, if we want to take a little more time to get some more applicants, we have options available to us. So
What's the cutoff date?
the cutoff date when they advertised it was, I think it was the end of November, but in talking to Katie, this is not an unusual occurrence where they don't get as many applicants as they would like to get. So I think we probably have some flexibility. It's not going to be a quorum issue if we don't have a position filled right away. We'll still be able to conduct business, and if we want to get a little wider applicant pool, I think the city would be fully supportive of that.
Are we,
Best to have a diverse get the largest group we could to interview. Sorry, David, go ahead.
Okay, are we promoting that on our social website and that the position's available and, because there's the audience that really respond, that's connected to us.
I will double check on that. I will admit I don't know the answer to that. I presume it got into our social media feed, into our social media schedule, but I will triple check on that.
How about an email? Because we have, I forget how many, we have
Yeah.
quite an email list.
Right.
I will double check. I think it got in there, but
I don't remember
I
seeing it,
don't
but
know the answer
I
to
may
that.
have missed it.
Yep.
One adaptation, I guess, that occurred to me is, we have the question about can you meet? But I'm thinking we might want to add something to that is that, under the COVID conditions, we're meeting remotely and, does the person have the technology and ability to connect to the meeting remotely?
We should be able to do it via phone minimally.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to see us limit somebody because they didn't have the technology.
Right, I don't care how they connect, but I think they do need to know that that's a new wrinkle in this, and some people don't like it and don't want to do it. So I think we ought to tell people that that's part of the criteria this time, at least for the foreseeable future. But I agree, Nick, it doesn't have to be via Zoom or whatever. It could be by phone.
Correct.
But I think somehow we need to send the message that using technology is going to be required here. So
That's a good message. So we can make sure that's in any subsequent information we send out about a recruitment.
but, and following up on what Nick has said, maybe the question could include, via phone or, the computer, shared technology or something, so that we don't unwittingly eliminate someone who can only connect by phone.
All right, any more comments or questions regarding the interview questions? Is that it on that, Greg? from you?
And just to make sure I've got my notes right, it sounds like the idea, we'd be a little more comfortable if we had a couple more candidates, if we had a broader applicant pool. Is that what I'm hearing from the rest of the board? That we'd
Yes.
like to?
Yes.
Okay. I thought that was the case, but I just wanted to make sure. So, okay. I will, we will do some more outreach, and I'll report back next month and let you know what the status is, and we'll go from there.
All right, we'll move on to our next item, which is communications. Ken is not here, and I guess we should say thank you, Ken, for your serving here for 4 years, and we will miss you. And best of luck, Ken. So he was our liaison with the Friends of the Library. Greg, can you update us if there's been anything that's happened since our last meeting?
Yeah, since our last meeting, well, first, I was unable to make the Friends November meeting, so I'm going to ask Denise to, Denise was able to make it in my stead. So was there anything of great?
No, just they're going to continue to do the one weekend a month where members get a 50% discount. So basically, most of the meeting was about how to increase their membership.
And then they are having their annual meeting online. Usually they do a luncheon, I believe, or a brunch, and can't do it this year. So we are going to do an online annual meeting of the Friends via Zoom. It will be on December 16th at, let me check before I misspeak. I want to say 4 o'clock, but I want to make sure I'm correct. My apologies. I have to find the email. I'm fairly certain it is December 16th at 4 o'clock.
It is.
Okay, thank you. So yes, the annual online Friends meeting will be December 16th at 4 o'clock. They have asked me, I'll give a little presentation on there about kind of where we've been over the last 10 months and, you know, what we see the next 6 months to a year looks like, you know, what the post-COVID, or the remainder of the COVID pandemic and the post-COVID world kind of looks like from our perspective. So I'll be giving a little information about that. And other than that, yeah, and the Friends are not having a December meeting. They decided with the annual meeting, they would not need to have a December meeting.
And I would absolutely encourage everyone on the board and those watching this to go check out the bookstore the Friends of the Library have, which is just a block up from the library. Great deals, and I cannot walk out of there without about 10 or 12 books. I had to buy a new bookshelf. So I encourage you to go visit the bookstore there. They've got an incredible selection of books for very, very low prices, and it goes to a good cause. So, all right, Cynthia, do you have an update from the Library Foundation?
Just a brief one. The foundation did not meet in November. We will meet next week on the 17th. However, we haven't been totally derelict in our duty. Our director, Karen Martini, sent out a year-end letter to 75 prior donors asking them to consider the foundation, you know, as part of their year-end giving. And so we felt it was important to reconnect with donors in this COVID environment and to remind them that we're still here and still supporting the library. We will have, after our next meeting, 2 new members, and I will report their names after our next meeting because we haven't formally approved them yet, but we're very happy to have 2 new members on the board because we had a couple of retirements, one due to moving away and a wedding, and another because she had other priorities. And that's great because boards need refreshing periodically. So we're very happy to welcome 2 new members, and I'll give you their names next month after we've had a chance to approve them and meet with them. Then Karen and all of us will be working on a memorandum of understanding with the Oregon City Schools Foundation and our partnership with them regarding support to the Dolly Parton Imagination Library project. So I'll have a little more information next month about the details of that, but we're really excited because it isn't really the role of the board to continue to manage the Dolly Parton Imagination Library all by itself. We need some additional community support and some volunteers to take on some of the roles of supporting that project. But it's still going strong. We're mailing books to kids, and parents are happy and kids are happy. So things are going well, and even despite COVID. And we normally meet every month, but there was a couple of exceptions of people's ability to attend last month, and we'll be fine this month.
Great, thank you, Cynthia. Before we get to Nick, it just occurred to me, if with Ken now done with the board, we will need a new liaison with the Friends of the Library. There's no meeting this month, right?
Correct.
So we're good. So if any of you want to think about that before our next January meeting, that, you know, that spot's open and we need someone to do that. So maybe Greg, just fill in everyone just on what that would involve for anyone on the board to be that liaison.
Sure. The meetings are always on the same day as this board meeting. So they usually occur 3 o'clock, I think? Yeah, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I give an abbreviated version of the director's report. So I share our director's report with the Friends, keep them up to date on what's going on in the library. And then they will talk about they'll look at the financials of the Friends. They'll entertain any requests that we have, any funding requests the library has. And then just talk about things like marketing and membership, store operations, and the like. So, and they're a great bunch. They are wonderful, wonderful people. So it's always a very enjoyable meeting.
About how long are they?
we rarely go over, I would say between 30 and 45 minutes is the average. And we are meeting, like this meeting, they are currently all happening online. So when we don't meet online, they happen in the library. They happen in the meeting room in the library.
Thank you. And so our last item on communications is Nick, and we need an update on the on LDAC.
Yeah, LDAC, they're still trying to see if we can do a Zoom meeting online. I know that that's still being worked on. They asked for dates, but I haven't seen anything with a specific date schedule yet at this point. But mainly that meeting would just be a touch base to see, just to make sure we're all still here.
Yep.
It's been a long time.
It has been a long time.
And always thank you, Nick and Cynthia, for being our liaison to these organizations. We appreciate it. All right, let's move on then.
I have one question.
Oh, yeah.
Going back to the open position. So do you think that we will do that at the January meeting, that we would do interviews at the January meeting? Because otherwise this could drag on for quite a while if we're just talking about doing it at the January,
Depending on if we have, if I'm channeling the board's desire, if we had 3 or 4 applicants to choose from, would that seem like a pretty good pool amount? That's kind of what I'm shooting for. If we
That'd be, I think the most I've seen at any interview would be 3 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my goal would be to get applicants, get applicants so that we could actually do the interviews in January. So how about I will give me a week to work on it, to make some calls and to see what we can do. And I will provide an update. I'll send everybody an email, just an email update. Also give me a chance to practice to see what's going on with the email system. See if we can do that, but I will email.
It's not super critical. I guess that's sort of I would just like to see us make sure that we're moving along with it. And if we can't find more people within the next 2-3 weeks, well, I know we're coming into the holidays, but I don't know if we're going to really uncover many more people if we don't have them by, say, early January.
So I will get some names from the city recorder to see if there are people, that are in the applicant pool for other boards. I've got a couple thoughts on people I think might be interested and might be, would be really good additions to the board. So
that sounds good.
Give me a couple weeks to do a little legwork, and I'll send out an email update. And we'll hope for the best and hope that we're going to have a sufficient applicant pool to be able to do it as part of the January meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, the next item is future agenda items, or if anyone else had any other comments or questions or anything to add. No? All right.
The only other thing, did you want to mention the update, the annual update to the city commission, Scott?
Oh, you can go ahead and, yeah.
Okay. So we do an annual update. There's an annual update to the city commission. We got some potential dates from the city recorder, and so our plan is we're going to be doing that on January 6th at the first commission meeting of the first meeting of the commission during the new year. I wanted to make sure, is that the normal practice? I think I'll work with Scott to create the annual report for the library board to the commission. Is that something that typically comes to this body to look at before it goes to the commission, or?
I don't think so. I don't think, yeah, usually the chair and the library director go to the meeting, and the chair gives the report. And I believe in the past, sometimes some members have shown up, I think, for that part of it, but obviously it's going to be Zoom this year. So that doesn't count this year. So you're all off the hook to show up.
I will send out I'll send out the information about the Zoom link and the link to the online meeting for the city commission meeting. We'll send out the information for everybody.
Excellent. Is there anything else? All right. Well, with that, I'd like to wish you all a safe and blessed Hanukkah, Christmas, and New
Yes.
Year's. And I will see all of you next year. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.
And
Thank
Happy New Year,
you.
everybody.
Merry
Thank you.
Christmas,
Thank you.
everyone. Happy Hanukkah, whatever
Happy
your holiday
holidays.
is.
Happy
Yes.
holidays.
Everybody, yep, stay safe and healthy. Please, 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 please.
Bye.